I didn't expect anything to happen that night. Seriously, it was supposed to be just another late workout. In, out, shower, go home. That's it. But somehow, I ended up alone in the gym with Kevin. My name's Roman. I'm 24, and I've been training there long enough to know everyone's pravutchki. People don't stay late unless they have a reason. And that night, one by one, they all left early. Except me. And him. The music had already cut off, leaving the place weirdly quiet. Just the hum of the vents and the occasional clink of metal settling. I was by the squat rack, pretending to stretch out my legs, but honestly, I was aware of him the entire time. Kevin was across the room, wiping down a bench like he always did. Calm, focused, quiet. He'd joined a few months ago, and from day one, there was something about him. Not loud, not flashy, the opposite. He didn't try to impress anyone, and somehow that made it worse. Or better. I still don't know. We didn't talk much before. Just nods, short exchanges. But there were moments, those quick glances in the mirror, like we both caught each other looking and then instantly looked away. Yeah, that kind of thing. Guess we closed the place tonight, he said suddenly. His voice cut through the silence, low and steady. I looked up, a little surprised. Yeah, looks like it. He nodded, tossing the towel aside. You always stay this late. Sometimes, I shrugged. Helps clear my head. That was only half true. The other half was standing right in front of me. Kevin walked a little closer, not in a direct way, more like he just drifted into my space, without making it obvious. He leaned against the nearby machine, arms relaxed, eyes briefly scanning the room before landing on me. You don't talk much either, he said. I let out a small laugh. Guess we're both like that. Maybe, he replied. Then, after a pause, or maybe we just don't talk to the right people. That stayed in the air. I felt it immediately, that subtle shift. The kind you can't explain, but you know something just changed. Oh yeah, I said, trying to keep it light. And what makes someone right? Kevin looked at me properly this time. Not a glance. Not accidental. Direct. Still figuring that out, he said. My chest tightened a little. Not in a bad way. Just aware. I grabbed my water bottle just to do something with my hands. Took a sip, even though I wasn't thirsty. Fair enough, I muttered. Silence again. But it wasn't empty. He pushed himself off the machine and stepped closer. Not enough to cross a line. Just enough that I noticed. Which was worse? You come here alone? He asked. Yeah, I said. You? Yeah. Another pause. Then he added, quieter. Easier that way. I frowned slightly. Easier how? Kevin hesitated for a second. Not long. Just enough to make it feel real. Less distractions. I swallowed. For some reason, that didn't feel like he was talking about the gym anymore. Right? I said, voice a bit lower now. He reached past me to grab his bag. His arm brushed mine quick, accidental probably. But neither of us moved right away. It was one of those moments where your brain tells you it means nothing, but your body doesn't agree. I turned slightly, looking at him. He was closer now than before. Close enough that I could see the faint tension in his jaw, like he was holding something back. You good? I asked. Kevin let out a quiet breath, almost like a laugh, without sound. Yeah, he said. Then, after a beat, just didn't expect to be the last one here with you. That caught me off guard. With me? I repeated. He nodded. Eyes still on mine. Yeah. Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. Is that a problem? I asked, half joking. Kevin shook his head slowly. No, he said. Not a problem. A pause. Then, softer. Just different. The word hung between us. Different. I didn't know what he meant exactly, but I had a feeling I wasn't the only one thinking it. And standing there, in that quiet, empty gym, with no one else around, I realized something. Neither of us was in a hurry to leave. I should have left. That's the thing I kept telling myself later. There was a moment, a very clear one, where I could have just grabbed my bag, said something casual like, see you, and walked out like nothing happened. But I didn't. And neither did Kevin. We both just stayed there. I zipped up my gym bag slowly, buying time I didn't need. Kevin was doing the same across from me, but every few seconds I could feel it, that strange напряжение, like we were both aware of each other in a way that went beyond just two guys finishing a workout. You heading out? I asked finally, even though the answer was obvious. Kevin glanced up. Yeah. Pause. Then he added, you? Yeah, I nodded. Neither of us moved. It almost made me ulыбнуться, how obvious it was. Kevin let out a quiet breath, then slung his bag over his shoulder. Locker room's probably empty now. Yeah, I said. Looks like it. Another one of those pauses. And then we both started walking at the same time, side by side. The sound of our footsteps echoed louder than it should have in the empty gym. No music, no voices, nothing to hide behind. Just that low hum in us. I was hyper-aware of everything there is between us. The way his arm occasionally brushed mine when our huggies synced up for a second too long. Neither of us commented on it. Locker room was exactly what he said, empty. Lights still on, mirrors slightly fogged from earlier, the smell of soap, and something faintly metallic in the air. It felt different without people. Too quiet. Too open. I walked over to my locker, trying to act normal, like this was just routine. Kevin took the one a couple lockers away from me. Not right next to me, but not far either. Close enough. I opened my locker, pretending to focus on my stuff. Towel, bottle, headphones, anything to keep my hands busy. You always come this late? Kevin asked again, but this time his voice sounded different here. Lower. Closer. Not always, I said. Depends. On what? I hesitated, then shrugged. On whether I feel like being around people. He let out a soft, almost knowing huff. Yeah, he said. I get that. I glanced at him briefly. He was watching me, not hiding it. I looked away almost instantly, but it was enough to make my chest tighten again. Why was this suddenly so intense? It was just a conversation. Just a locker room. Nothing was actually happening, right? I pulled my shirt off, tossing it into the locker, trying to act like everything was normal. But I could feel it, that awareness of him being there, of his glot shifting slightly. Not obvious, but not nothing either. You've been coming here long, he asked. Almost a year, I said. You? Few months. Yeah, I remember when you started. I added without thinking. There was a small pause after that. Yeah, Kevin said. I instantly regretted how that sounded. Just, you stood out. I tried to brush it off. New face, you know. Kevin didn't respond right away. And when Iris Knoll glanced at him again, he had that slight smirk. Is that so? I shook my head, half laughing. Don't make it weird. I'm not, he said calmly. But he stepped a little closer. Just one locker closer. My heartbeat picked up again. I turned back to my vision, grabbing my towel like it suddenly mattered a lot. You always this quiet? I asked, trying to flip it back on him. Kevin leaned against the lockers, arms relaxed. Only when I'm thinking. About what? Another pause. Then he said it. About whether I should say something or not. That landed. I turned to face him fully now. What kind of something? For a second, I thought he wouldn't answer. But then he pushed himself off the lockers and took one more step closer. Now he was right there. Not touching, but close enough that it felt intentional. That depends, he said quietly, eyes locked on mine. On how it's going to be taken. My throat felt dry all of a sudden. Well, I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. You could just say it and find out. Kevin studied my face for a moment. Like he was actually deciding. Like this wasn't a joke. Like this mattered. And then, you've been looking at me too. My sertsa literally skipped. I blinked. What? He didn't look away. Since I started coming here, he continued. Not all the time. But enough. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out immediately. Because the worst part? He wasn't wrong. I started, then stopped. Kevin tilted his head slightly, watching me. Relax, he said, softer now. I'm not calling you out. Then what are you doing? I asked, my voice lower than before. Another small pause. Then he said it, trying to see if I imagined it. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Real. And standing there, half changed, alone with him in that empty locker room. I realized something very clearly. He wasn't the only one trying to figure this out. I didn't leave. That was the first mistake. Kevin was still standing a few feet away from me in the locker room, like he was giving me space to decide what kind of conversation this was going to become. But the thing was, I already knew it wasn't normal anymore. It hadn't been normal for a while. I closed my locker slowly, trying to steady my breathing. All right, I said, forcing a casual tone. You've been staring at me like you've got something to say. So say it. That made him pause. Not in a nervous way. More like he was waiting for permission that I just gave him. Kevin shifted his weight, arms loosely crossed, eyes locked on me. I already started saying it yesterday, he said. I let out a short breath. You didn't actually say much. A faint smirk appeared on his face. Not confident. Not playful. Something more controlled than that. That's because you weren't really listening, he replied. That got under my skin more than I expected. I took a step closer without thinking. Try me. For a second, The locker room felt too quiet again. Then Kevin looked at me directly. No, he said calmly. I frowned. No. He nodded once. I'm not going to repeat myself just because you're pretending you didn't hear it right. My chest tightened slightly. I'm not pretending anything, I said. Kevin tilted his head a little, studying me like he was reading something I wasn't saying out loud. Sure, he replied again, softer this time. That word again. Sure. Like he didn't believe me at all. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling. This is starting to feel weird, I admitted. Kevin didn't react like I expected. He didn't laugh, didn't deny it, didn't step back. Instead, he just said, "It's only weird if you make it weird." That hit a little too close. I looked at him properly again. He wasn't joking. That was the problem. I leaned against the lockers, trying to reset the situation in my head. So what then? I asked. Yesterday just didn't happen? Kevin stepped forward slightly. Not enough to invade space. Just enough to make the distance between us feel intentional. No, he said. It happened. A pause. And you know it did. My heartbeat picked up again. Because he was right. And I hated that he was right. I crossed my arms, trying to regain control of the moment. Okay, I said slowly. Let's say I didn't imagine it. What exactly are you trying to do here? Kevin didn't answer immediately. He looked at me for a long second. Then he said something quieter. Figure out if you're going to run from it or not. That made me freeze for half a second. Run from what? I asked. Kevin exhaled slowly, like he was choosing every word carefully. This, he said simply. No explanation needed. Just this. The tension. The awareness. The fact that neither of us had been acting normal around each other for days without admitting it. I swallowed. You're making a lot of assumptions, I said. Kevin gave a small nod. Maybe, he replied. But you haven't walked away yet. That silence after it was heavier than anything else so far. Because he was right again. I hadn't. Not yesterday. Not now. I looked at him, trying to read him like he was reading me. What if you're wrong? I asked finally. Kevin held my gaze. Then, quietly. Then tell me to stop. That was it. No pressure. No push. Just a line laid out in front of me. And for the first time since this started, I realized something uncomfortable. I didn't actually want him to stop. Not yet. The silence between us didn't feel empty anymore. It felt loaded. Kevin was still standing near the lockers, calm on the surface, but there was something different in the way he looked at me now, like he wasn't just waiting for a response anymore, but for a decision. I shut my locker a little too hard. All right, I said, trying to sound normal. You keep talking like there's something I'm supposed to admit. So what is it? Kevin didn't move right away. That pause again. Then he stepped closer, not fast, not sudden. Just enough to make the space between us feel smaller than it should have been. You already know, he said. I frowned. No, I don't. A faint exhale left him, almost like a quiet laugh. You do, he repeated. And the worst part? I did. I just didn't want to say it out loud. I leaned back slightly against the lockers, trying to regain control of the situation. Let's say I understand what you're hinting at, I said carefully. Why now? Kevin's eyes stayed on mine. No reason, he said. Then added, quieter, just tired of pretending it's nothing. That made my chest tighten, because I knew exactly what he meant. The gym suddenly felt too quiet again, even though people were just outside, weights clanking, music faint in the background. Inside this space, it was just us. You're acting like this has been going on for a while, I said. Kevin gave a small nod. It has. That answer hit harder than I expected. I looked at him properly now. No smirk. No joke. No usual distance. Just honesty. So what exactly do you want from me? I asked. Kevin didn't answer immediately. He looked down for a second, then back up. And when he spoke, his voice was lower. Truth. That word hung there. I let out a short breath. Truth about what? Kevin stepped a little closer again. Still not touching. Still controlled. But close enough that I could feel the shift in the air. About whether you feel it too, he said. My throat went dry for a second. I forced a small laugh. That's pretty vague. Kevin didn't react. Is it? He asked. And suddenly, I couldn't laugh anymore. Because it wasn't vague. It was the exact thing I'd been avoiding thinking about since yesterday. I looked away for a second, running a hand through my hair. This is a gym, I said again, quieter this time. Not some conversation like this. Kevin's voice softened slightly. Then why are you still here talking? That stopped me. Because I didn't have a good answer for that. I should have left. I didn't. I should have shut it down. I didn't. Instead, I stayed. Kevin watched me for a long moment, then spoke again. I'm not trying to make this complicated, he said. I just don't want to keep guessing. I finally looked back at him. Guessing what? I asked. He held my gaze. If I'm the only one noticing it, he said simply. Silence again, but different this time. He wasn't pushing. He wasn't joking. He was just there, waiting. And I realized something I didn't want to admit. I wasn't confused anymore. I was just deciding how honest I wanted to be. The gym noise felt far away now, like it belonged to another world. Kevin was still standing there, waiting. Not pushing, not closing in, just steady. Like he had already said what he needed to say, and now it was my turn to decide what kind of person I was going to be in this moment. I exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of my neck. You make it sound like there's something big going on, I said. Kevin didn't move. There is, he replied simply. No hesitation. No doubt. That was the thing about him, he never filled silence with nonsense. If he said something, he meant it. I looked at him again, properly this time. What if you're wrong? I asked. Kevin's eyes didn't leave mine. Then I walk away, he said. That was it. No pressure. No trap. Just a line drawn cleanly in the air. And suddenly, I realized something uncomfortable. He wasn't forcing anything. He was just not pretending anymore. I shifted my weight, glancing down for a second. You always this direct? I asked quietly. A faint smirk appeared on his face again, but softer than before. Only when I'm done guessing, he said. That word again. Guessing. Like everything between us had already been building long before I admitted it to myself. I swallowed. The locker room felt too still now. Even the usual background sounds from the gym outside felt muted. I took a step away from the lockers, just to move. Kevin didn't follow, but his voice stopped me again. Roman. I paused. Hearing my name like that felt different. More personal than it should have been. I turned slightly. He was still watching me. Not intensely. Not aggressively. Just focused. You don't have to answer me right now, he said. I let out a short breath. Then why say anything at all? Kevin shrugged slightly. Because I wanted you to stop pretending it wasn't there, he said. Silence. He wasn't wrong. That was the worst part. I ran a hand through my hair again, exhaling harder this time. You don't even know me that well, I said. Kevin nodded once. True, he said, then added, but I know what I've been seeing. That line landed heavier than it should have. I turned fully toward him now. Which is? I asked. Kevin held my gaze. And for the first time, his voice dropped just a little lower. That you keep looking at me like you're trying not to. My chest tightened. Because he said it like a fact. Not a guess. Not a joke. A fact. The silence stretched. Longer this time. I could have denied it. I could have laughed it off. I didn't. And Kevin noticed that immediately. His expression didn't change much, but something in his eyes softened slightly. Like that was all the confirmation he needed for now. He stepped back half a step, giving space again. See, he said quietly. That's all I needed. I frowned slightly. All you needed for what? Kevin grabbed his bag, adjusting the strap on his shoulder. To stop imagining things, he said simply. Then he looked at me one more time. Longer than before. Not intense. Just honest. And now I know I wasn't. He turned toward the exit. But before he left the locker room, he paused. Not looking back fully. Just enough for me to hear him say, tomorrow same time. And then he was gone, leaving me alone again. But this time, nothing felt the same as before. The next day at the gym felt different the moment I walked in. Not because anything had changed, but because I had. Kevin was already there again. Of course he was. Same time. Same routine. Same quiet focus. But now, I couldn't unsee yesterday. Every movement he made pulled my attention in a way I didn't fully understand yet. It wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. It was just there. And worse, I knew he noticed I was noticing. That thought alone made my grip on the dumbbell feel tighter than usual. Late today, Kevin said when I passed by. Same calm voice. Same steady tone. But now it didn't feel neutral anymore. It's normal time, I replied. A faint nod from him. For you. That small line made me glance at him. He wasn't smiling. But there was something almost patient in his expression. Like he was waiting for me to catch up to something he already understood. I started my set, trying to focus. It didn't work. Because every few seconds, I could feel him nearby. Not staring. Just present. Like he didn't need to do anything anymore. Halfway through my reps, I heard his voice again. You're off today. I paused mid-movement. What? Kevin leaned on the machine beside me, arms relaxed. Your form, he said. You're thinking too much. I let out a short breath. I'm fine. He shook his head slightly. No, he said. You're not. That should have been annoying. But it wasn't. Because he wasn't judging me. He was just observing. Like he actually cared whether I was distracted or not. I finished my set and set the weight down harder than I needed to. You're always like this? I asked him. Like what? Kevin replied, acting like you know what's going on in my head. That finally got a small reaction from him, a faint exhale that almost looked like a smile. I don't know everything, he said. Just enough. I turned toward him fully now. And what exactly is enough? Kevin met my eyes. Longer than usual. Then he stepped a little closer, not invading space, but breaking the comfortable distance we usually kept. That you're still here talking to me, he said. My chest tightened slightly. I should have moved away. I didn't. Instead, I asked quietly. And what does that prove? Kevin paused. For the first time, he didn't answer immediately. Then he said, that you didn't shut it down. Silence. Because that was true. I could have ended this yesterday. I didn't. I could have made it awkward, walked away, pretended none of it happened. I didn't. Kevin stepped back again, like he always did, controlled, careful. Look, he said, calmer now. I'm not trying to mess with your head. I gave a short laugh. Feels like you are. He shook his head. No, he said. I'm trying to figure out if you're going to be honest or keep running in circles. That word again. Honest. I looked at him for a long second. And for the first time, I didn't feel confused. Just aware. Of him. Of me. Of the fact that this wasn't random anymore. Tomorrow, Kevin added, picking up his bag again, same time. I didn't stop him this time. Because part of me already knew. Whatever this was, it wasn't staying just words much longer. The next day didn't feel like the gym anymore. It felt like a countdown. I arrived at the usual time, but this time I wasn't sure why I kept doing it. Habit? Curiosity? Or something I didn't want to name properly yet. Kevin was already there again. Same spot. Same focus. But the moment I walked in, he looked up faster than usual. Like he was expecting me. That alone was enough to make my stomach tighten slightly. We didn't speak right away. We just noticed each other. That was the new thing between us now. Not conversation. Not jokes. Awareness. I dropped my bag and walked over slowly. Kevin didn't move from the machine, but he didn't ignore me either. You're consistent, I said finally. He gave a faint nod. So are you. I almost laughed at that. Because it wasn't about the gym anymore. We both knew it. I leaned against the nearby rack, crossing my arms. So what happens now? I asked. Kevin didn't answer immediately. He set the bar down, wiped his hands, and finally turned to face me fully. Not from a distance this time. Closer. Now, he said calmly. You stop pretending this is just conversation. My pulse picked up. And if I don't? I asked quietly. Kevin studied me for a second. Then he said, then I'll keep waiting until you do. That silence after hit differently. Because there was no pressure in it. Just certainty. I exhaled slowly, looking away for a second, then back at him. You're really sure about this? I asked. Kevin nodded once. No doubts, he said. That answer should have made things simpler. It didn't. It made them clearer. I stepped a little closer without thinking. Now the distance between us wasn't casual anymore. It was intentional. Kevin didn't move away. Didn't rush. Just watched me. Like he was letting me decide every step. You know, I said quietly. This is starting to feel like a bad idea. A faint smirk appeared on his face. Most real things do, he replied. That made something in me shift. Because he wasn't pushing me into anything. He was just standing there, waiting for me to stop running from it. I looked at him for a long second. Then finally, I didn't step back. Kevin noticed. Of course he did. His expression changed slightly, not surprise, not victory, just understanding. Like something had finally clicked into place without either of us needing to force it. Okay, he said quietly. One word. But it changed everything. Not because anything physical happened, but because for the first time, neither of us walked away from it. The gym noise continued around us. Life continued around us. But right there, between Roman and Kevin, something real finally stopped being avoided and started being acknowledged. I didn't move. Kevin didn't either. For the first time since all of this started, there was no chasing, no guessing, no pushing anything forward or pulling away. Just stillness. But it wasn't empty. It was full in a way I couldn't explain yet. Kevin broke the silence first. You're thinking too hard again, he said quietly. I let out a short breath. That obvious? A faint nod. Yeah, he replied. It usually is. That almost made me smile. Almost. I looked at him properly, not like before, not like I was trying to decode him anymore. Just seeing him. And for the first time, I noticed how calm he actually was. Not uncertain, not confused, just sure. That was the difference between us. I don't really do this kind of thing, I admitted finally. Kevin didn't react like I expected. He didn't push, didn't question, just nodded once. I know, he said. That alone surprised me. You don't even know me that well, I pointed out. Kevin's eyes stayed on mine. Not everything needs time to be obvious, he replied. That silence after hit differently. Because there was no performance left between us. No pretending. Just two people standing too close in a place where nothing about this was supposed to feel personal, but did anyway. I exhaled slowly, shifting my weight. So what now? I asked again. Kevin stepped slightly closer, not enough to trap the moment, just enough to make sure I didn't leave it. Now you stop asking that, he said. I frowned slightly. That's not an answer. Kevin's expression softened just a little. It is, he said. You just don't like it yet. That got to me more than anything else he had said so far. Because he was right. I kept looking for structure, for clarity, for something I could label and control. But this wasn't that. I looked down for a second, then back up. You're serious about me? I said quietly. Kevin didn't hesitate. Yeah, he replied. Simple. Direct. No hesitation. That should have made it heavier. Instead, it made it clearer. I nodded slowly, like I was finally catching up to a conversation that had started long before I joined it. And you're not worried about it? I asked. Kevin gave a small exhale, almost a smile, but not quite. I stopped worrying a while ago, he said. That line stayed in the air longer than anything else. Because it wasn't about confidence. It was about decision. I looked at him again. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was being pulled into something. I felt like I was choosing it. I stepped forward slightly. Now the distance between us was almost gone. Kevin didn't move back. Didn't rush in. Just stayed there steady. Waiting, but not forcing. I lowered my voice. This is going to change things, I said. Kevin nodded once. Yeah, he said. It already has. That was it. No dramatic moment. No sudden shift. Just acceptance. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Then I nodded. All right, I said quietly. Kevin's gaze softened slightly. Not surprised. Just present. And for the first time since this all began, nothing between us was left unsaid in silence. The gym still existed around us. People still came and went. Weights still clanked in the distance. But right there, in that small space between Roman and Kevin, something finally stopped being a question and became real.